your letter dated March 6th, addressed to the Governor's Council. Dear Council, I'm pleased to nominate E. Sidney Hanlon to the position of Associate Justice of the Massachusetts Appeals Court, sincerely, Deval Patrick, Governor. Judge, before we hear from your distinguished witnesses, I know you have some family members here. I mean, if you'd like to introduce the members before your family members before we start, that'd be fine.
Up here. My cousin Mary, my cousin Ron, his wife Cindy, my niece, this is my cousin Todd. Yeah, good. My niece Taylor Ann, and my cousin Patty. And I have good friends who are family as well that I would.
Yeah, that's fine if you want to say that.
That's Mary Ann Hinkle, Peg Ireland. The witnesses will be introduced separately. My neighbor and friend Mary Ann Hannigan and Mary Ann Regan. Justice Janet Barry from the Massachusetts Appeals. Judge Tom May, Bill Stewart from Rochester Probation. Thank you.
Counsel, if I could, I just have to get clarification.
Yes,
I see a family member that I know. I don't want to come again, but I didn't expect Taylor there.
My cousin, I live down his daughter.
All right. Oh, so you brought in all the guys.
Yes, I did. This is an education.
Helpful advocate today.
Depending on how this goes, she's deciding whether she wants to be a lawyer.
Oh, I know she plays basketball.
At this point, let me introduce you to the other members of the council. To my right here is Councilor Carol Fiola. Seated next to her, Councilor Kelly Timothy. And to my left, Councilor Thomas Merrick. The other councilors come in. I'll introduce you to those folks. I think you have, before we hear from you, I know you have 4 people, excuse me, who are listed as witnesses. We'll hear from them first.
Okay.
And the first person on the list is Attorney Michael Doolin.
Good morning. My name is Michael Doolin, and for background, I've been a practicing attorney in the Boston area, and specifically in Dorchester since 1985. I was an assistant district attorney in Dorchester Court and other courts throughout Suffolk County, and for the last 21 years I've been a solo practitioner with an emphasis on criminal defense, and I've been in front of Judge Hanlon, I would suggest to you, probably over 1,000 times. I have been in front of her probably every week since she's been on the bench in Dorchester District Court, and I've had extensive background going in front of her on trials, pleas, arraignments, civil cases, restraining orders, and anything that as a district court judge I've been in front of her. Over the course of time with Judge Hanlon, I've had a chance to observe her demeanor in the courtroom, her writing, her ability to discern legal issues, her ability to be fair to people in the courtroom, and I recommend her to you with my highest recommendation. She is a fabulous, fabulous judge, and even more importantly, I believe she's a tremendous person. During the course of time that I've been in front of her, and over the course of time that I've been an attorney, when you look at a judge and try to discern whether somebody is acting in a way that most judges would want to act in a courtroom, you look at different factors. I think one of the most important things is judicial temperament. The judicial temperament that I've seen from Judge Hanlon over the years has been exemplary. She treats everyone who comes in front of her with the highest degree of fairness. She is kind, she is decent, she has a tremendous amount of humanity. When people come in front of her from the circumstances with which we find ourselves in Dorchester, often people who have not had a tremendous amount of breaks in life, she's always willing to listen. She has instituted programs in the Dorchester Court. She has promoted individuals into going into programs as opposed to incarceration if necessary. She's also guided, I would think, Dorchester Court over the past over 15 years with a very firm hand and a very kind hand. When Judge Hanlon was introducing everyone here earlier today as being members of her family, I think that all of us who have gone into Dorchester Court over 15 years, in many ways regard Judge Hanlon as a member of our family because she has treated us with that way. She's respectful to everyone who comes in front of her. She knows the name of every person. She knows every person's children. She knows their spouse. She is a tremendous writer, which I think is something that's very important for what we have in front of us here today, which is her going to the Court of Appeals. She has written opinions that that I have seen that are always well researched. She's always up on the cutting edge of the law, knows all the opinions, not just from the Massachusetts courts, but from the U.S. Supreme Court and the federal courts throughout the United States. She knows the Fourth Amendment as well as anybody that I've seen in over 20 years of practicing law. She knows the criminal, and I also think that she knows the civil as well. As I have said before, she treats everyone with a tremendous amount of fairness, whether that be the litigants, the lawyers, or the individuals who work with her in the Dorchester District Court. And she's always taken the time to get to know the people who are in front of her. Nobody is rushed in and nobody is rushed out. Everybody is treated fairly and justly, whether it's the criminal case or a civil case. I also think that what you look for in a judge is someone who has ethics that are appropriate to the bench, and she certainly does. I have seen her over the course of the last over 15 years always act in an ethical way, always act in an upfront way. Everything is done in Dorchester is put on the record. She has made a practice over the years of saying things in the open. There is nothing that is ever done that in any way I have ever seen was untoward. She has acted in every sense that I have seen as an ethical, decent, and studious judge, and I recommend her to be very, very highly.
Thank you very much. Next we'll hear from Professor Ann Murphy. And excuse me one second, before we hear from Professor Murphy, I'd like to introduce Marilyn Devane. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Governor's Council. It's an honor to be here today and to speak on behalf of Judge Hanlon. Very much no. Judge Hanlon and I have been friends for more than 35 years. We met in Providence, Rhode Island. We had adjoining Hamilton in the garden in 1972. During the many years of our friendship since that time, we have, of course, had innumerable conversations about our various jobs, including countless discussions of legal issues relating to her work. I have watched her grow and learn and change over those years as she moved from the offices of the district attorney, the U.S. attorney, and the assistant attorney general to the Baltimore Municipal Court. In all of those roles, Cindy has been characterized by an extraordinary degree of integrity and commitment to those she was serving and to the law. I do not use the word integrity lightly, but it's the only word that suits Cindy's formidable devotion to her profession as an attorney and as a judge. In all of the roles in which she has served, I've been impressed by the lucidity of her thinking on complex legal issues and moved by the dignity and respect, as the attorney said, with which, both as a prosecutor and as a judge, she unfailingly treats both defendants and victims. Indeed, if one issue has dominated our countless conversations over the years, it is the difficult balance that she consistently strives for and so admirably achieves between compassion and justice, between recognition of the individual realities of each case and each person involved in it, and her deep and abiding respect for the principles of the law and the ideal of justice. In the Dorchester Court in particular, this balance includes a deep awareness of the individual human reality of people who are, unfortunately, not always accorded respect by public institutions. I remember one afternoon when my elderly Aunt Claire and I visited the court in Dorchester, so that my aunt, who was proud and just amazed that women could be judges, could watch my friend on the bench. We were both completely moved, and I, had seemed to me over the years I've really seen her that way on the bench, by the seriousness with which she addressed each person who came before her, both assuming and conferring dignity on people who were homeless or mentally ill or deeply troubled, people who had been brought to the court by some terrible trauma or loss. As a friend of many years standing, and in this case also as an English on legal issues that she's written in the newspapers. I've been a teacher of writing now for some 30 years, and I can attest with absolute certitude to the precision, clarity, and elegance of her prose, as well as the subtlety and logic of her thinking. Sydney is one of the very few people outside my own profession whom I would ask to read my writing and use editorial judgment I trust completely. And finally, I know other people will touch on this, but I want to say briefly that I have also worked with Sydney professionally as a teacher in a program called Changing Lives Through Literature, which she initiated in Dorchester Court. As some of you may already know, this is a program based on the idea that literature has the power to transform. It's essentially a reading group that meets over a period of weeks and is taught by an instructor and attended by a probation officer, a judge, and students. And the students in this case are men and women who have been sentenced to probation by the court. The idea is that the students will learn from reading literature about issues that they confront in their daily lives, and that the judges and probation officers will learn from discussing these issues with people whom they might normally see more from a distance, both a judicial and a physical distance. During the 10 years that I've taught in this program, I have witnessed the energy and creativity that Sydney brings to her duties as a presiding judge, and the tact and humor that she brings to her dealings with the probation students in the literature class, and with the staff and fellow judges. The Changing Lives Through Literature program offers, to my mind, many compelling benefits to the people involved, to the students, the teachers, the probation officers, the judges, and the teachers, certainly. For me, most centrally, of course, it provides people struggling to rebuild their lives with invaluable opportunities to experience and express their essential humanity, and to discover, often for the first time, their own intelligence and creativity. For the rest of us in the program, and especially for the judges, it serves as a salutary reminder of the human dimension of every legal issue. Sydney's commitment to this program is thus perfectly in keeping with her devotion to the spirit as well as the letter of the law. It's my belief that Sydney combines a vivid awareness of the lives of citizens touched by the law with an astute legal acumen and a depth of experience, incisive intelligence, and an enviable elegance as a writer. These are the qualities I hope she'll be able to bring to people.
Thank you very much. Next we'll hear from the Honorable Rosalind Miller.
Good morning. I'm Rosalind Miller, and I've known Sydney Hanlon since about 1983, when we were both prosecutors, and we were both asked to speak at the same community meeting in Mission Hill. Since that time, our paths have crisscrossed over the years, and in 1996, I had the good fortune to both be nominated and confirmed for a seat in the Dorchester Court as an Associate Justice. Since then, I have worked for the last 13 years side by side with Judge Hanlon in Dorchester Court. It has been a privilege. I know this woman very well. This is a terrific appointment. She is very smart. She is thoughtful. She listens well. She writes beautifully. You know, we talk about our opinions after we've written them and read each other's opinions, and I'm often in the position of sitting there saying, how do you do this day in and day out? Write an opinion that is so clear and so beautiful. And I tease her a lot about her Ivy League education, actually. But she assures me that she learned to write this well in elementary school, which of course doesn't make me feel all that my elementary school, but she is tireless. Dorchester Court is a very busy place, and I know that some of you here have been to Dorchester Court, and you know what I am speaking about. The pace is fast, the work is challenging, and no one's work ethic surpasses Judge Hanlon. No one. She's knowledgeable about the law. She's current, as I believe Attorney Doolin said, on all the latest cases. And believe it or not, we have quite a crew of judges in Dorchester Court. We have spirited legal arguments, or perhaps we'll call them discussions, every day at lunchtime, and Judge Hanlon is in the middle of every one of those discussions. Dorchester Court is truly a community court, and I know that, again, some of you know that. And this is largely attributable to the leadership of Judge Hanlon. She loves people. She has a heart of gold. She has compassion for the people and the families that we serve. It's children, too. She's been an ardent supporter of the programs run by our probation department, the fatherhood program, the women's program, Professor Murphy said, the Changing Lives Through Literature, and a host of other programs. She's been an advocate for our youthful offender program, which is actually a national model for strategies to combat gun and drug violence in the inner cities, and she's always been a big supporter of that program. She's innovative. She's not afraid. She has been supportive of both the domestic violence session and the drug court session in the Dorchester Court. Judge Hanlon is fair and balanced. When the federal government offered Dorchester Court more than $7 million for a domestic violence session and for services to our community, Judge Hanlon insisted that the defense bar be a part of the governing body of that grant. She said, we'll reject the money if the defense bar is not part of this. The authorities relented, and as a result, our community received almost $8 million in funds for services to the community, including, by the way, training for the defense bar about these issues. In addition, on that subject, it was Judge Hanlon's idea that part of the money from the federal government be to provide services for unrepresented defendants in restraining order hearings. The result of that was that we hired outreach workers through the Boston Public Health Commission to come in and to be there for men and women who were unrepresented in restraining order hearings, to brief people about what was happening during the hearing, about what their options are, about what their rights are, and to offer services for those people before the hearing, and then after the hearing to debrief those people to let them know what the terms of the order were, and again to offer services to those people beyond the restraining order hearing. Judge Hanlon will bring years of experience in the trial court to the appeals court. She will bring knowledge and context to the issues that we in the district and the municipal court face every day. Over the years, we've been mistaken for one another. This started back in 1983. It's actually before I met her. I think the first time some state trooper came up to me and said, "Hi, Sydney," and I was like, "Who's Sydney?" I was a little offended that he thought I was, a man. But over the years that's happened, and it continues to this day. Very often in court, a defendant, even lawyers, will say, "Judge Hanlon," et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to start having a placard. I know where I'm not in. But over the years, people have confused this, and I'll tell you this. When I go out into the community, whether I'm in the Stop and Shop, whether I'm with a mechanic, whether I'm at, wherever I am, people come up to me and they will say, "Hi, Judge," they'll sidle up to me. "You don't remember me, do you?" And I'll think, "Oh, boy." And they're usually the next words out of their mouth are something like, "You cut me a break. I'm back with my kids because of you. When you locked me up, I got serious about my life, and I'm doing so much better. Judge, I'm sober. You helped me so much." And so, hubris being what it is, I start to feel a little good about myself. And then the details come out. And I realize that this person is not talking about Judge Miller. They're talking about Judge Hanlon. Let me just say that our loss in Dorchester, okay, and it will be a loss for the people in the community that we serve, will be a great gain for the judiciary as a whole and for the public that we all serve. So I recommend Judge Hanlon to you highly, even though in a selfish way, it will be a great, great loss.
Thank you very much, Judge. It's always good to see you.
Good to see you too, Counselor.
Next, we'll hear from Chief Probation Officer Bernie Fitzgerald.
Good morning. Thanks for the invitation. My name is Bernie Fitzgerald. Chief Probation Officer in Dorchester Court. I've been working in Dorchester as a probation officer since 1971. For those of you that don't know, Dorchester is a very complex and a very beautiful place. I wouldn't work anywhere else. It's a great place to work. There are over 29 different dialects spoken by the people of Dorchester. It's a great place to work. It has its problems being crime and poverty and violence, and we deal with that every day. I'm here to recommend Judge Hanlon because the help that I've been given as the Chief Probation Officer by her office has been extraordinary. One of the things that I've learned in the last 38 years in Dorchester is that I don't have any answers, and probation doesn't have any answers, and the criminal justice system doesn't have any answers. So we have to be open to whatever folks might suggest in terms of rehabilitation. because we are in the business of behavior change. Behavior change takes place as a result of a lot of different things. Sometimes it's as a result of a jail sentence. Sometimes it's a result of the women's program. Sometimes it's a result of the Changing Lives Through Literature program or the drug court. But we have to be open-minded enough to try whatever we can in order to help people attain that behavior change that brings about good citizens. And that's what I'm grateful for, is that I've been able to work with a judge who I've known since, about 30 years now. I've been able to work with a judge who's open to innovation and who's open to those types of things. My pet project at the court is the fatherhood program. We've been doing a fatherhood program in Dorchester for about 10 years. It exists in probably 15 or 20 different courts throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And the aim of the program is to imbue in our defendants, the probationers, the importance and responsibility of fathers over and above that of providing financial support. Financial support is important, but we know that the Department of Revenue and those people are active in trying to get the child support. What we want to do is make sure that young men who are on probation, who have come through the criminal justice system, know how important it is for them to be involved in the lives of their children. And we've had situations where we've had men who have restraining orders against them and who have stay-away orders from their own children. And we tell them how they can work through that. They can work through that through visitations, through stuff at probate court. We always bring in somebody from the probate court to speak to them. We tell them that if they work hard enough, that they will eventually build a relationship with their child, and maybe their child won't have to go through the same trials and tribulations that they've gone through in terms of coming through the criminal justice system. And I think of one name pops up, and he spoke to our group last week. It was a young man by the name of Curtis Carter. Curtis Carter had a restraining order. He had a stay-away order. Curtis Carter was involved in drugs. Curtis Carter never knew his own father. Curtis Carter also spent some time in prison. And Curtis Carter came through the fatherhood program. And as a result of that program, now Curtis Carter is one of, I think, one of 2 or 3 people who work for the Division of Youth Services who got a pass on his criminal record because of how he performed through the court. And Judge Hanlon was instrumental in that, in getting him, first of all, into the fatherhood program, working through the domestic violence situation that Curtis had gotten himself into, and also in ending his case early, allowing him to be terminated from probation before his time was up, so that he'd have an opportunity to work for the Division of Youth Services. So that's a success story. Those are the types of things that we need in the court. We have to be able to try anything. And I admire Judge Hanlon for the fact that she's allowed us to do things that are sometimes a little bit outside the box, and allowed us to make innovations that somehow help the folks that we work with on a day-to-day basis. I couldn't recommend anyone more highly.
Thank you very much. Before we hear from Judge Hanlon, and who else is going to speak? Steve Patterson. Steve Patterson. Anyone else that wants to speak in opposition? Okay. Your name, sir?
Lawrence Watson.
Lawrence Watson. Okay. Any other folks?
Joe Urenick.
I'm sorry?
Joe Urenick. U-R-E-N-E-C-K.
Go slow again. You are?
E-N-E-C-K.
Okay.
And Denise Barron is in the room.
Denise Barron? Denise, I got it.
Barron. B-A-R-R-A-N-T, I believe.
Oh, and one more that's coming. Doug George is the name.
Okay, so we'll go down this list. I'm sorry.
May I speak in favor of the...
Okay, I didn't have your name on the list.
No, I thought what I do is
Okay,
wait
yeah,
to
sure.
give everybody else a shot.
Okay, you can speak, introduce yourself, and you can speak.
Good morning, everyone.
Come on.
I am retired Judge Tom from Brookline. I was the presiding judge in Brookline for the last 6 years. Let's see. I have been a captain in the Marine Corps, police officer, district attorney, trial lawyer for 35 years, and I've just retired the last 6 months from being the presiding judge of Brookline. Prior to that time, after I see a few counselors here who made a wise choice and recommended me for appointment, and I was appointed by Governor Weld, and within days of my appointment, I was in Dorchester. And I knew Sydney professionally. That was it. And at that time, the Dorchester District Court was a disgrace to the community. It was housed in a used car lot. And the volume of business was unbelievable. The Dorchester District Court is one of the busiest courts in the Commonwealth, as you may know. And it's not just busy, it's guns and gangs and drugs and lots of domestic violence. And at that time in Dorchester, there was Judge Hanlon, newly appointed presiding, Judge Joe HanlonHearingParts13796, who's now on the Superior Court, and we were soon to be joined by the Judge. It was a horrible place. There was one courtroom that I think Sydney used to stick me in on purpose. It had a big air conditioning, circular machine. The noise was so great you couldn't hear a thing. The defendants were 3 feet from the bench. I'd say you couldn't swing a cat in the room except that Sydney cared about cats. And I remember, in fact, one day, Judge Walker was so incensed at the noise coming in from the corridors because they were in there like sardines, there was no place for them, that he couldn't conduct the trial again. And he went out and he had to put down the guests who were waiting to be heard. It was really, I said, what did I get myself into? But it turns out, 3 years later, they opened the new courthouse, which is gorgeous. And the only problem was the volume of the work had increased, and now we only had 3 judges. There was Judge Hanlon, Judge Miller, and myself. And we were tremendously understaffed in terms of the judiciary. We were doing a volume of work between the 3 of us that in all fairness required 5 and maybe a 6th judge. I have to tell you that even though it was exhausting,